talk with First Degree, the DE, and an in-depth interview with Beverly Fresh. I caught up with First Degree just before he was to perform in Sacramento. We discussed his latest release, Light the Beam, which is out now, and here he is.
It takes bravery to be weird, you know? If you're gonna stick out, then you have to be able to back yourself up.
Mm-hmm. Put yourself out there and make music for yourself, make music for your people, make music for the world to be a better place, and just let people react. And, you know, you get randoms that have things to say. It's more random than random, but then you have, you know, people that get inspired, you know, like the Mole.
So we got the new EP.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's beautiful, man. You just keep getting better, I think. And
thank you, man.
My favorite, like I was telling you earlier, is, what's the name of that track?
The Final Say.
The Final Say.
That's my daughter, my baby daughter. She's 3. That's her favorite song.
Yeah, it's great. And you got a part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is my shit, because you get a little bit weirder.
Okay.
Yeah, you get into your falsetto, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, since we're on weird rap, and it's special to me because I really appreciate how you pumping the weird, I'm going to give you a little insight on that song.
All right.
Okay. The committee, you know, in the song, it represents the Illuminati, and well, who's the Illuminati? It's the D, but the core of the song came from Star Wars. Okay, so you watch Star Wars?
I've seen it.
Okay, seen it. So there's a part where Padme is presenting her case to the government, the galactic government.
Okay.
Okay, and she says that her people are in trouble on her home planet of Naboo.
All right.
She goes to the galactic government to try to get help, and they're just it's red tape. Nothing's happening. So then she gives this speech, and she says, "I don't have time to wait for the results of this committee."
Oh.
So that's where the way I say committee.
Yeah.
It's committee.
I don't have time to discuss the matter with people in the committee. My people in danger. I don't have time to discuss the matter with people in the committee. Opinion, perspective, all deleted with dictatorship. The word leave you crunchy like potato chip. But you were happy. So we break a man's will with grime and grit. You did not have my permission to quit. Sit, cop this. Grow from my final synopsis.
That's a lot of little things like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
It'll come from a seed like that and then represent something else for me.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it'll represent something big to other people.
That's great. Yeah, it took me a while to even understand what word you were saying there. But that's my favorite part. It's just like, oh, DE's gone straight weird.
And you know,
track.
I get some positive comments, but you know, I get some hater comments too.
Like the anti-weird people, you mean?
So I think about you, and it made me laugh. Because for every one of them, there's one of us, and they think I'm supposed to cater to them.
Well, unfortunately, there's more of them than there is of us.
I should have said there's 3 of them and 1 of us. But that's all right.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it's supposed to. I'd rather be the 1 of us than the 3 of them.
Yeah.
When randoms get to squawking, it's just, I don't get mad, or first thing I think is, damn, I'm glad I'm not their friend. And then I think, you know, I'm glad I'm not one of the 3 to 1. So just have a nice day, sir.
I mean, deep inside, though, every one of those people has a weird side. They're just afraid to show it.
So, see, there's afraid. You're right. Afraid. It takes bravery to just let it out.
Mm-hmm. You're going to shoot your music video tonight, right?
Excited about that. We're doing a video for tonight based on the What a Life song. But at the same time, we're shooting a whole movie that's going to be on Amazon Prime. And this is like part of the climax of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Title to be announced.
So this is going to be a part of a full-length feature film.
On Amazon Prime, The Real Deal. So the movie Have you seen District 9?
Yeah, a while ago.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's great.
So the seed of this movie is kind of like that movie.
Okay.
Where it's going to be like...
Alien visitation.
No, not... That would be hard to shoot. But instead of alien visitation, it's... Something has happened with the DE.
Mm.
And it's video proof, interview proof. And then this show happens that we're about to do now.
All right.
And then something really big happens.
Mm.
And then the world reacts.
A happening.
Mm-hmm. So it's all coming together. My man Emo, we did the Sacramento Rap History movie together.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one was the hardest. We got that first one in. So now it's time to just create, make the world a better place.
So you consider this your second feature-length film?
Mm-hmm.
All right. But this is more fiction. That was a documentary.
This is kind of like both.
A hybrid?
Yeah, kind of like a hybrid. Some of it will be real. Then I got a really big movie I'm working on. I've been writing it for like 15 years in my head. And that's the Make the World a Better Place movie. Because I'm going to really push the limits on these people. Everyone's divided and looking for reasons to be divided. But when push comes to shove, y'all better work together. Be careful what you wish for. Okay? I'm looking forward to that one too. Yeah,
man, you are a real storyteller. To be honest, me, even though I'm a huge fan, it's hard for me to wrap my head around all the nooks and crannies of where your stories are going.
Well, hopefully, it's kind of music that you listen to for a while and then go off in your life and come back to a few years later and catch some more things.
Yeah.
It's like you just catch little pieces.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to like rock hammer and stuff, there's still little things I still catch,
Right. But like, are all these characters like Robo DE and do they live in the same world? Do they know each other?
Do they live in the same? Yeah, they're the council. They're the committee.
They are the committee.
And together they are the committee.
Is there a finite number? How many people are in the committee?
I don't know, but man, I'm gonna need you for this movie because you're asking good questions.
Well, some questions are best left unanswered. Sure. But that's interesting. You said that the committee is the Illuminati, which is you. The committee is the Illuminati, which is actually a bunch of yous. Yeah.
You said it better than I could.
I love it. I've been there. I've been on my own paranoid fantasies
just a
before.
Bunch of yous.
Cussing up a storm for these kids in the glory. Yelling, cussing, yes, still boring. I think 3 years is appropriate, but distracting from my thoughts and baccalaureate. Nah, all joking aside, I'm agitated when we ain't our best when we ride. We can't all abide, but the way I see you, you a king inside. With enough pride to put your phone on private in establishment. Simple Simon, perfect timing. That on speakerphone while I'm finding ingredients to this week's dining. My thoughts on grinding, not distracted by your foul jiving. Even introverts need protein and starch. Missing the cave, your speakerphone doing its part. Here we go again.
Folks need to hear that. Mm-hmm. If you're in the grocery store, turn off your speakerphone. It's not hard. I'm not trying to hear your shenanigans. I'm just here for bananas, friend. All right, but yeah, we're gonna hop in this show real quick.
All right, yeah. This is a great
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Weird Rap. Y'all keep it out there. Do what you can to make the world a better place, through music, through whatever you do.
We will.
And the universe will pay you back tenfold.
And now I'll be speaking with Beverly Fresh. You may know Beverly, aka Zach Ostrowski, as a guest interviewer on several past Weird Rap episodes, but he is also a weird rapper in his own right, and a great one. His latest album, Pies, confused me, to be honest. So it was very enlightening to have Beverly explain some of the concepts behind it. We'll break that down, along with his history as a musician, writer, graphic artist, and performance artist. Here he is, Beverly Fresh.
Is there really any truth to you having a history with pig wrestling?
Yeah.
Let's hear about that.
Yeah, I've been in a couple pig wrestling competitions as part of the Outskirts series where I kind of tour the rural Midwest, and I participate in a lot of the county fair and cultural rituals, and also disrupt them. But yeah, the first time I encountered pig wrestling is the crooner, Greg Scott. He's my partner in Wild American Dogs. We were looking for a place to shoot a feature film called Bathtub Songs and Other Extracurricular Activities, and we like printed out all the county fairs and 4-H fairs in the Midwest, and they all had the same kind of things like pancake breakfast, carnival rides, face painting, and this one, like, all it said was like Montgomery County Fair. Have you ever seen a pig wrestle? And that really attracted us because it was like, are the pigs wrestling? Are you wrestling a pig? And I liked that their advertisement was a question.
Right.
So we ended up going there, and then that's where we shot the film. And it was supposed to be in the film, but it ended up the pigs were too fat that year, and they were too slow and lazy for anybody to wrestle them. So they canceled that. But I went on to do it at other places. But yeah, they grease up a pig, so they're like hard to catch. You know, they slip out, and you gotta try to pin them down and take them to a pen.
Sounds like good fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, definitely, that's the kind of stuff that happens. I'm from a small rural town, so you have to make your own entertainment. I think it's kind of born out of that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, you definitely seem like you have a fascination with that sort of redneck Americana, like Midwest vibe. You say you come from that to some degree, right?
Yeah.
But you seem like also, you know, you're a metropolitan, artsy. I don't know. I'm curious what you're like, how you would describe your connection to it and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, probably a lot of the work that I do in the rural Midwest is me trying to understand it myself and understand like where I come from. But I grew up my whole life in a small town, farms, things like that. But then my parents had moved from Detroit, so we were outsiders, you know, growing up. Even though I grew up there, they weren't from there. And it's like a small town where it's generation after generation. Everybody knows each other. So yeah, I felt like an outsider. And also a lot of my extended family was still in Detroit when I was younger. So we would go there on the weekends to visit my relatives. So I knew a world outside of the small town. But I was still of it. I mean, that's where I grew up. And I guess I was judged in a way too, that we hadn't been from there from generations. So I did always feel a little different. And yeah, a lot of the stuff I didn't like, growing up, but I think I've since gained appreciation for it and also come to terms of like, that is a big part of who I am. Because I don't belong to a city either necessarily. I don't feel like, I think, and I'm interested in the underexamined, the misunderstood, the underexplored, and I think the rural Midwest is like one of the last places, you know, that are like that. So yeah, I'm fascinated by it. And I try to approach the work without judgment. I'm not taking a stance, one way or the other.
Yeah, that comes through. So yeah, let's talk about the new album. Why is it called Pies?
Yeah, so as part of this Outskirts tour, I've been doing it for about 15 years. Since my last album really is when I dug into it deeper, and came up with a strategy for it. And I've been doing these like a cappella, unauthorized, impromptu performances. For example, the first one I did was at a pancake breakfast.
Put that on a pan, bam, slap that on anyway. Hey, I'm making pancakes. Yeah, cooking pancakes. Why? Put it down till it's round, flip it on back around. This side, that side, girl, you know it's alright. Pancakes. Yeah, we love the pancakes. So yes, get dressed in the morning, let me see the syrup or blueberry, white cherry, and some butter. Won't you Larry? Pancakes. Yeah, we love the pancakes. How's that? Flapjack, tall stack, short stack, no stack. Eat 'em up, butter and syrup. Pancakes.
So it's site specific in a way. So I'll do research. I also did a bunch of stuff at this Colon, Michigan Magic Festival. So I researched pickpockets and magicians and built these pieces specifically around that concept. So when I started making this album, I returned to some of the stuff I did from the Outskirts series and was like, well, what happens if I turn these into songs and rework them in some way? So Pies was, I think, one of the early monologues that I wrote, and I performed it outside of the Boy Scout Museum in Ottawa, Illinois, on a cold winter morning. And yeah, it was just about putting myself in the mind state of this, I don't know if it's a hallucination or something, but this guy's obsessed with pies, and, he's looking at pies. He wants you to watch him look at pies. So there's kind of this fetish undertone, but it's also funny and kind of innocent, but bizarre.
Yeah.
Made a visit to Vanessa. She served me pie. Came over to Chris. He gave me pie. Thank you. A rendezvous with 2, even 3 pies. Anytime I see pies, I will eat pie. Dipped onto Donna's. We dined on pie. Had the peach with Denise.
So Pies, that I think was the first song I recorded for this record. Blair French, Dial 81, who produced Bed, my first solo album, just sent me a lot of his new beats, and I think that was the one I heard first, and I just started freestyling, trying to work the Pies monologue into this beat, and it just clicked. And it wasn't the concept from the beginning that this is going to be the anchor of the album, but somehow it made sense. And I like the idea of just a short one-word title like Bed. Yeah. Pies is a good follow-up.
And Bed was that was about 15 years ago or something that came out?
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. I think it was 2011 in September when it was officially launched or out. But we started recording in 2008 or 7 or something. I recorded the first track, and then it was a while, and then we busted it all out at once.
Yeah, I remember you were working on that for a while. How do you think this album compares to the last one, or what changes have you gone through since then?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've gone through a lot of changes, but I'm not sure if that's evident in the album or not, because the album is mostly drawing from material over a decade still. So it kind of shows my development over the years. And I think I guess one of the biggest pronounced differences in this album is that over the years, it's less and less autobiographical. So I think, I remember playing Bed for my dad when it came out, and he was like, "Oh, this is about our town." He was like, I hear all the references to the guy at the corner store and your friends and feeding the ducks at the boardwalk, and it's all this. Yeah. And I didn't set out to do that, but it's just how it emerged. Yeah. But over the years, I've and especially through traveling, I'll meet somebody and kind of do an amalgamation of a few people that I meet, I guess an actor would in a way. You kind of take traits or phrases from somebody, and then I try to write from their perspective, but it's all, of course, filtered through me and my experience. So yeah, I've been trying to extend the writing quite a bit and not make it as personal, pulling more from the culture, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting.
the Beverly Fresh persona is not exactly a single character, right? It seems like it's changing. It's an amalgamation of different people that you observe, different parts of yourself. And
yeah, I mean, when I first started it, you know, like I guess it's an ongoing interest of like, even when I was in a group called Pro Logo Purgatory in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, with Mesa Mexia, aka Maisie Sane, Tony Stewart. But we changed our names, I think, quite a bit during, you know, like every year we had different names then. And I just remember the other day, we also had female names at some point. We were Stacy and Erica. It was like homeostasis in America or something like that, and there was like abbreviated. So, and yeah, we tried out all these crazy approaches. And then I used my own name for a while, you know, before Travis Scott or, you know, any of that stuff was popular. It was like ridiculous to have a full name, especially, you know, Polish last name. So that wasn't hidden necessarily. And then Beverly Fresh became like an umbrella for all of my interest in like music, fashion, art. And then I knew, and this is, I don't know, probably almost 20 years ago, that I knew, you know, before people were branding themselves and all of that, like I studied all of the David Bowie and people like that, and was like, what are the traps of having a persona, and what freedom does it afford? And I realized like you can't escape caricature. And, you know, even somebody like David Bowie, who was always reinventing himself, you get pigeonholed at some point, or it could be written off as a gimmick. So I wanted to make an identity that was flexible and fluid. And so that's when I started kind of combining like the humorous stuff, the innocent stuff, the sweet stuff with the hardcore stuff. And really those were all aspects of my personality. I just amplified them and embraced them as opposed to like curating a narrow sliver of it.
Yeah. And you mentioned Pro Logo Purgatory. That was when I first came upon you, when you were doing that stuff in like 2001, 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick in a little snippet of that music here, which was like, you were really going wild with the art rap, noise, jazz kind of approach.
Walk the elevated line. Label people. Conception. The ice cream perception.
Contemplate.
To a perishable landscape. As we all.
As do measurements.
Us and our instruments.
And implements.
Of ignorance.
Becoming a product as we walk.
Jazzers of time.
I cannot comprehend virginity.
Please love me.
Nicotine laughter.
Forever.
And is waiting.
On holy relation.
For no specification.
Everything follows so much script when it's always a
Contradiction. Of sick mind frame fiction.
Can we deal with much more?
And at the same time, you were doing Superior Belly. So
Yeah.
Talk about how that began and what that was.
Yeah. I mean, I met Tony Mesa in 96, I believe. And I think around 97, 98, we were a group officially, or a duo. And we started doing, you know, shows around Detroit and that. And then we started recording in Detroit on Claremont Avenue at Rude Boy Studios. Like Proof recorded there, and Tenio MC ran it. Subliminal, the Detroit battle rapper, definitely took us under his wing and kind of showed us the scene and just like technical stuff about rapping in the studio. And then it was probably like the end of 98, I got a job at the airlines. Awful job. But I made enough to like buy my own studio equipment, just like a 4-track Tascam cassette and drum machine, mic. So then that, like, because we were kind of confined by the studio and the beats of, you know, what was going on in Detroit. And once we got our hands on our own equipment, we went nuts. We didn't know like how to use it or anything, but we just we're just working intuitively, and that's what came out, is this really wild experimental style which we thought we invented. We thought there'd never been music like that made before. And it was like, early internet. So you still didn't have access to everything. And then I think around that time, 98, 99, I met Tom Brzezinski. We were going to community college in Port Huron, Michigan. And then I found ATAC at that time. And I was like, oh shit, there's like, that's when I realized there's pockets of other people doing experimental hip hop in different cities. And then this online distribution of ATAC inspired me. So I was like, I don't know how to do it, but I want to figure out how to make a website, and I want to put art and music and writing on it. And Tom was down. We just connected over that. And then we started with a few other friends, DJ Wounds, a few other people joined in, and we started an art collective, and the website was kind of the genesis or the hub. So then we started reaching out to other MCs and producers and kind of featuring them on our site. In a way, it was like super lo-fi Spotify or something. It's like a place where you could find, they weren't like part of Superior Belly, but they were like affiliated. We were showcasing them, other musical acts, and then writers and artists. We would show our own stuff, but also other people's as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and Johnny Tsunami were basically doing a similar sort of thing with, like, he had the Proletariat's website, which was actually how I found you guys.
Yeah, I might have even designed it. I'm not sure. I know I did some design for some Prolet stuff, but I don't remember what was used.
Yeah.
But yeah. I met him and Aaron Staplemouth at the same time, and then got like hip to the Hawaii scene. They were selling our stuff there. It was like one of the only places people were buying it. And yeah, we became pretty close. I mean, we'd talk all the time, share music, and that was in the tape trading days. So through them, I met other people, and we were dubbing tapes and learning about music and art through just exchange.
Yeah, it was a special time. And that led to me eventually even releasing one of your Pro Logo albums on my little label.
Yeah, I think it was the last official Pro Logo album.
Right. So jumping back to this new album, which I, re-listening to it, I'm really appreciating it more. It's a strange album. Like it's pretty confounding in a lot of ways. So it took a couple listens before I could really start. I appreciated it. I don't know. It's a weird album.
Yeah.
So like what I would like to do is, if we can, like, to try to dissect one of the songs to maybe get like a little bit of a view into the larger idea behind the way you've constructed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, real quick before we do that, I think I agree. I think the vibe is weirder, and I'm curious to see what people say, because everybody called Bed an experimental hip hop album. But when I came out, I was a little defensive. I was like, oh, this is the most normal thing I've ever done.
Right.
I was really trying to rein it in and make something tight. And then I feel like this one, I loosened up more, where the other one I think is a little more accessible to like the general like head nodding. It's definitely weird, but it's got those head nodding bangers on it. It's good for live shows. And this one still has some of that rawness, but it's mixed in. It goes places you wouldn't expect it to go. And I think it sounds more like a studio album, but in terms of the style, but I think the tone and attitude is more indicative of the live shows, where they go a lot of different places and there's more of a contrast.
Well, like sonically speaking, I think both of the albums have this like 90s throwback element, but this one seems a little bit more expansive and unpredictable. Lyrically, I think this album is a little bit more confusing. The lyrics on the first one seem like you're more like sticking to a concept that I could understand from song to song, whereas this one I'm like, what is he doing here? So like I
I wanted to like dig into one of the songs, maybe like Big All Over, I feel like is a really simple, it's very simple, more or less lyrically, but still confusing. So maybe that's an easy way for us to like kind of dissect it.
Sure.
It's all right. Take it on with your eyes. Everybody come on. Never give it back. Everybody come on. Burn in the breeze. Everybody come on. Another one in the sack. Everybody come on. I am the man. Everybody come on. The muscles are mine. Everybody come on. It's no return. Everybody come on. It's showtime. Everybody come on. It's big all over, it's burning bright. Now comb your hair, cause it's alright. It's big all over, it's burning bright. Now comb your hair, cause it's alright. Cause it's alright, cause it's alright.
Yeah, this one I wrote, I think 2014, 2015. And I wrote it specifically for this Mr. Midwest performance at the Cranbrook Art Museum. And sort of the structure is I do this outskirts performances, which are these quick kind of one-off pieces in small rural towns. And then I tour with that for a while. And then I bring all of that content in and distill it into a one-man show, which is like usually then in a gallery or museum, or I've been doing these tent revivals. And it's like, it mixes jokes, monologues, songs, storytelling, physical feats, crowd interaction. And that's called a Mr. Midwest show. It's like this one-man show. So this was like a big turning point in the Mr. Midwest series, because like it was the time when I started writing from other points of view. And it was part of a solo exhibition at the Cranbrook Art Museum, and it dealt with these different archetypes that I kept coming across. And one of them was the strongman, and like I'm literally seeing like strongman competitions, but then also like there's always like the big shot in the town or the provider, just these like masculine tropes. So I had a strongman, like posing and like, doing the show, like bodybuilding poses in the performance. Mm-hmm. And then there was a large sculptural installation that related to the strongman. And what I'm interested in is like setting up, establishing an archetype, but then also undermining it or like deconstructing it.
Yeah.
So the Big All Over was the opening song, and I was like ruminating on the strong man. He's got all the eyes on him, and it's both painful and, there's a sense of freedom in that and power in it. So it's a massive sight. It's big all over. And it's just like his ego, he's larger than life. And there's a certain pacifying thing that happens with, somebody in power. You can potentially take comfort in that. So like we have the strong man to look up to, the savior. So, comb your hair. It's all right. Everything's going to be okay. And close your eyes. The strong man's here. So I was kind of dealing with that. And, there's these lines about, like it's kind of like a couple coming out on a date to watch him. And it's like the event, it's like the start of the show. So there's like building up this anticipation. Like as the opening song, I kind of want to establish this like excitement, but also this nervous energy.
Yeah.
And careless with passions. Tonight I'm the thrill. So it's like, there's the couple out on a date, but like they're seeing him and he's the surrogate. They're getting their thrills through, watching this shirtless strong man. And I also read Harry Crew's Feast of Snakes. At the time that I wrote this, I was doing a residency in Berlin, and I wrote the entire Mr. Midwest show for that. And I like something about the protagonist in Feast of Snakes and just like the violence and competition amongst men in rural communities. Like that was just like kind of sitting heavy on me. And I had that, like kill him, eat him. Let's start the show. Great big despair. Like I think this is like, a lot of the the rituals, even like a eating competition or the strongman or just sports, there's like a level of violence and a thrill of like potential of danger.
Yeah. Self-harm and harming others as well. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's all kind of wrapped up in this one.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the element of slapstick in this album. How would you say that manifests, and how does that figure into what you're doing?
Yeah, I had this idea for a while, but like, I remember, I don't know, just like, you know, again, like this tension between drama and comedy, or like horror and humor. Like even like some of the like early gangster rap stuff is kind of like, there's a funny aspect to it. Like we talked, and this isn't gangster rap, but we talked about the Wu-Tang skit, the torture skit. Yeah. You know, it's like a thing of like a man in trouble is a recipe for humor. Yeah. So I thought about like this line between violence and comedy. And the idea was to like make a really hardcore, over the top song and have it be a form of slapstick. Is like, could it be so violent that it becomes humorous? Mm-hmm. But then I kind of pulled back from that a little bit. And I decided not to go to those extremes and kind of find a middle ground, where I feel like this is both like violent and funny.
Fuck your tombstone, piss on it slow, piss on your soul. Roll the blunt with your guts, high as fuck at the carport, a Huron man. Stash gloves in the bag, stick my hair in the back, soaking up my rag, floating off the slab, half blown at the track. Fucking with the facts at your desk with your friend. They know who I am, I make the blood wet. I put the pot set, dance slow with the show. Spit out your teeth, spill out your dreams. Just let the truth tap your tooth puke on you. I fire your eyes. Fuck your lips, fuck your teeth, fuck your tongue, fuck your tooth, fuck you. Fuck your lips, fuck your teeth.
I didn't want to go too crazy with the lyrics, still have it be something you want to listen to over and over again and not be too gratuitous.
But I mean, even if it's not like, maybe you pulled back from the violence, but I think what remains is like this juxtaposition of comedy and tragedy. Like the figures that you're portraying are these sad, strong men, and that's funny in a way.
Yeah. And it's like, he's like, fuck your tombstone, piss on it slow, piss on your soul. You know, it's like, it's a pretty intense insult, but it's also hilarious, I think.
Yeah. And so like, in a way, I think while not being overtly disrespectful, you are like poking holes in the culture that you grew up around, I think, you know?
But and also myself, I think I implicate myself in it. I mean, I'm of that culture, and also like these feelings. Like I'll get out of a meeting and be like, I'm gonna fucking wait for that guy in the parking lot. Like I can't, like I have, violent thoughts, or you get competitive, right? But I'm like trying to find a humorous way to deal with that and acknowledge it in myself, but also as I see it in our culture, And that like same like tendency towards violence in yourself that you feel, I think, is exemplified in the way that a lot of your public performance, especially, I think, has included like an element of agitation, where you're going out in public and you're fucking with people's sensibilities, essentially. Yeah, there's at times a commentary. I never would say that's the primary objective, but I feel like my approach to those things is to try it on. Like I'm going to slip into that skin and embody it to understand it, as opposed to like point my finger at it, as a way to get a more nuanced understanding. And again, like not to pick sides. Right. And judge. And the agitation stuff I do, I think, I've been surprised because when I first started it, like I thought for sure, like I'm going to get in a lot of fights, and like that's what I was prepared for, because I would, fights would happen and things like that. Even just going to a carnival or to the beer tent, like people are just looking for that as a form of entertainment. And I was like, now if I'm going to stir up some shit, like definitely that's going to happen. But what I found is that like somehow it cuts through, and it's almost like some people just ignore it and pretend it doesn't happen. But then there's also people that it's like they've been waiting for it, and they don't know what it is, but they immediately connect with it. Yeah. And then we connect, and then we collaborate on something together, where they become part of it spontaneously. Cause I feel like it's still, I mean, even with everything being connected and, networked, it's still like you just feel in a rural town, like the weight of the stillness of like the absence of movement and the desolation and the restlessness. So like, this is like a way to cut through that, and it becomes like a hyper form of the truth, like through fiction, through agitating, through breaking the structure. I think we arrive at like a deeper truth. And Peter Steeves, a really great philosopher that I admire, wrote an essay about my work. And he was saying that in a way, like it's agitation, it's deconstruction of the event, but it's like, it's bringing out a way to enjoy it more. So like the pancakes performance where I disrupted the pancake breakfast made it extra. It made it more of a celebration through compromising it. So I hope that like, some of it is meddling and being a trickster and fucking with people, but it's always good intentioned. I think I'm not ever out to like poke fun or
it's not overtly confrontational. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You don't really give people an inroad to be like, well, fuck you too, because I think the main reaction you probably get is like confusion and like shock, but not knowing how to react, if at all.
Yeah. I think it's equal. It's part that, and then part other people are just down with it like right away. And that's the thing that I've been so happy with, is because I think, I work mostly in the art world, and it's hard, in a gallery or a museum, it's set up. The social cues are for you to be quiet and obey, and things are precious. Yeah. And when I do something in there, it's like I really have to work to get some crowd interaction going. And then I was surprised, and, people supposedly in the arts are very open-minded, right? But then I've kind of found the opposite in some regards of that. Yeah. I go to a small town and people are like, they don't need to know what this means. They don't need to check with their friends to see if it's cool. They're just like, I see it. I'm down. Yeah. I want to be part of it.
They appreciate the break in mundanity and the sort of the break from normalcy.
And I've noticed that it's a way to connect. So people will be like, oh, you know what? Like I draw, or like I've been making, like I met this, I don't know if you've seen the video with this guy, Old George, a banjo player. But he was like, we just met him. We rented a car from him for a scene in the film. And he was like, yeah, I make on my VHS old school recorder, I like make documentary films around the town. He's been doing it for like 30 years. He's got all these films like the Amish community in Indiana for nobody. Like he just does it to do it. And same thing with like his banjo playing. So like it's a way to connect with the creative side that I feel like sometimes people feel like they have to suppress in a small town because it might not fit in.
Yeah. That's great. Speaking of that, so you made a feature film, is that correct?
Yeah, Greg Scott, the crooner, who's a partner in Wild American Dogs, he wrote it. I guess I kind of co-wrote it or wrote parts of it. He filmed it and edited everything. It was kind of his concept to follow me on the Outskirts tour and kind of like make a documentary film. But then as we started brainstorming it, we're like, well, let's fold in these fictionalized aspects. So it's like a docu-fiction piece. And then we worked with like 2 other actors and then a bunch of local people from this town in Indiana. And we got lucky. We got a really solid film crew and a really good producer who produces like, Hollywood movies and TV shows. And it worked out. Nobody was busy that summer and they were willing to do us a favor. So we were able to pull off a feature film with very limited means. And Greg worked his ass off it's a lot to edit a feature film by yourself.
So that's called Wild American Dogs. And
no, it's called Bathtub Songs and Other Extracurricular Activities. And it's by the Wild American Dogs, the duo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something I can watch on YouTube?
You can watch, if you go to wildamericandogs.com, you can watch it. And then we also have a few copies. We did a limited edition VHS.
Nice.
And if you go to the Black Oak in Indiana, where it was our home base and we shot a lot of it there. There's a few rooms with VHS players and you can watch the film in the rooms where we shot some of the scenes. It's kind of like a guerrilla art installation in this like rural motel.
Yeah. So talk about sweetness and how that figures into this project.
Yeah. I mean, I have songs like Little Deer, I think is a good example. Probably maybe the best example on the album. I think Pies is sweet a little bit too, but Little Deer is like the most innocent. And, it's like a little, kind of like a children's song, almost novelty song in a way about a little deer and like wanting to feed this deer nuts and berries and just appreciate nature. And it's not about nothing else, it's just kind of a really straightforward, sweet, like lullaby or something.
Why did you come here? Eat from my hand. It's from the land. Sip from the lake. Yes, with your tongue. Get it through your teeth. Not to your lungs.
I wanted to include that to add some contrast on the record, open up a new dimension. And I did it in the Outskirts tour a couple different times. People loved it. Kids loved it, especially. One of my favorite moments is my son when, I don't know, he was super little, like 2.5 or 3. He only saw the video for that like twice, 2-3 times. And he remembered the lyrics. And we were walking through like this outdoor mall and there was like a karaoke thing. And he was like, I want to do Little Deer. So him and I got up and we did Little Deer together. I mean, it's a silly song, but I feel like there's something there, it's like.
Yeah. To me, it kind of like points to the idea that these big, strong, violent men, also are that way because they're protecting a little, sweet boy on the inside or whatever.
Yeah. That's part of it. Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about Dial 81, the producer, aka Blair French, because I think the beats on this album are great, and he's got quite a long history of doing stuff. And just today, I don't know how I ever missed it, maybe because it was never online originally, but he did one rap album a long time ago in like 2008, I think it came out originally.
Boxcar Portal.
Yeah. You put it out on Superior Belly, right?
Yeah.
Quality resolved, digesting raw energy of nomads, no matter the day, 3 prongs attached to the spine. Move on, increasing the heart rate, age of the microchip, wrist, wave your hands. Head in the aerosol can, melt the ice capades, grill, Swiss cheese, stay toasty. Dream patterns affecting reality, reflecting my income. Welcome, tension in dilated one, suspended manifestation, train station, train for alienation. You're in good hands. No need for the blame.
I just thought I'd throw in a word of recommendation for that. It's on Bandcamp now, and I don't know if you have anything to say about that project.
Yeah, it just came out. It was re-released on vinyl for the first time. So I don't know if there's any left, but that got re-released. And yeah, I mean, he had been rapping. He's got a lot of other rap albums other than that, but that was kind of maybe the most popular. But I don't know if a lot of them are online. He was active in like getting Superior Belly in, we had a lot of different members and phases and activities kind of came and gone over the years. We started in the late 90s. Uh-huh. So he was like, I don't know, like around 2004 or something, I met him and I thought I'd retired from rap. I thought I was too old and I was just making these like bedroom, more experimental. Like I wanted to do like hip hop, Roxy music. I was like really, really into Brian Ferry and Syd Barrett and stuff like that. And I was just like only making stuff for myself and like a handful of friends. And then I met him and then he was like making the beats I always wanted to make. I wasn't disciplined enough or I was just too wild. I couldn't rein it in or I didn't know how. And like when I heard his stuff, I was like, damn, like this is what I've been looking for. We just immediately connected. I did a guest spot on Boxcar Portal. And that was like when I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to the Beverly Fresh and get back into hip hop. And then he joined Superior Belly and like really got that, like the record label side of it running. And he set up like tons of shows and he started releasing, finding people to release. And then we started this series called the Spill Out series. We did CDs, but like also a lot of 7-inches. And every month we'd have a big party. It'd be $7 to get in. You get a free vinyl or CD. So like during that period, like 5 to 7 years, we did a ton of releases and they're mostly, I guess, just sold locally then. We had a really good scene. And yeah, like Blair was a huge part of that, really the catalyst for all of that. And then after my album came out, Bed, in 2011, he got into ambient music and down tempo. He started scoring films. He did Detropia and won some awards for that. And like, yeah, he just went a different direction sonically and he stopped rapping himself. And that was around the time I like kind of made more of a commitment to the art side of things. So there was a while where it didn't make sense for us to collaborate. We were doing different things and then it just synced up, again recently.
So Pies is only going to be available on vinyl, right? You can't hear it digitally. It won't be streaming.
Yeah, that's the idea. Cool. Yeah, just vinyl. I might do it at Bandcamp eventually if there's seems like a lot of people want that and you could stream it on there. But I'm not sure. I think for now I want to just have it as vinyl.
Yeah. And you got your own balloon. Is that true?
Yeah, so it'll be $25 just for the vinyl. It's got a custom inner sleeve. And then I think $40 is going to be for this deluxe package. And there's 50 of those made. And yeah, it's like each one will have different hype stickers on the front, which are more conceptual than your normal stickers. And there's a pin, these eyeball cards, like these crazy business cards, a liner note book. A 32-page zine of these poetry drawings that I do, a unique Polaroid, a risograph booklet, a balloon, And then I'll throw in some other stuff too, like potentially the Boxcar Portal CD or some other, I have other random stuff that I'll include if you want the deluxe.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome package for $40. What is a poetry drawing?
Yeah, let's see. So they're like,
they're poems, but they're
it's all done by hand, and it's kind of like I teach graphic art, and primarily that's how I'm trained. So like I think I'm always interested in the tension of like the visual and legible and illegible. So these are like drawings, and that they're hopefully interesting in form and composition.
Yeah,
but then you can also read them and take something away, but you don't have to read them. So they're kind of like teetering between a drawing and a poem.
Yeah, and it's artfully drawn text. Basically, which is it looks cool. I'm gonna probably have to buy one of these packages myself. And do you have any copies of your book left?
Yeah, I might. I'm not sure if I could sell those independently. There's not many left. It's an experimental expanded catalog that I designed. So my last solo museum show, I wanted to do a book that wasn't just a catalog. It just doesn't it's not just the works that are in the show, not straight documentation. So there's essays by Greg Scott, sociologist, Peter Steeves, philosopher, and also the museum director. And then there's like process work. There's work that's not in the show. There's notes. So it's like more than just a catalog. It's kind of like an extension of the exhibition in a way. It's its own standalone object. So I think it's a good piece to have if you're interested in my work. And there's not many left. But if you are in some ways have access to like university libraries or like major public libraries, like the New York Library, stuff like that, I think you can get, a lot of them went to big collections like that. So might be able to get it through a library just to check it out.
What's it called?
Yeah, it's called Really Something Else. It's by University of Chicago Press and the DePaul Art Museum. And you can get it through the DePaul Art Museum website. And I think also through University of Chicago Press website.
Yeah. Back to the album once more. Release day, you're doing a tour of Chicago, right? Or how's this work?
Yeah. So the web shop will be open the end of April, and it'll be open until June 10th or until they sell out. It's pressing of 300 copies. Yeah. So I'm hoping that it creates some urgency, that people will buy it right away. And then I'm doing on May 21st, like a pie, kind of a bootleg makeshift tour of like diners, cafes, shopping stores or whatever, grocery stores. I'll be in the parking lot at like Jewel Osco eating a pie to kick it off. So I'm going to show up at like these different pie spots, eat pies for 8 hours, and meet up with people, and they can come up and buy the album out of the trunk of my car. Or I'll be walking around with a stack.
Will you be doing any performance besides eating pies, or is that the experience?
Yeah. I think we'll see. I mean, that's the physical feat. And, I'm hoping to talk about pies with people, like what they enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's a way to get to know fans or make new fans, hopefully. In terms of performance, we'll see.
To make yourself sick or?
Probably,
yeah. A lot of pies, right?
We'll see what happens. But I don't know. I didn't want to just do a concert. I wanted to do something different. Connect with people in a different way. People in Chicago can come and buy the album from me on May 21st, and then you can buy it online all of May until June 10th, and then that'll be it. And then if I have any left, it'll just be when I do live shows. You can get them there, and
And when you say online, you mean superiorbelly.com or what?
Yeah, it's a good note. I think it was beverlyfresh.com, I think is going to be the main site. I'm not sure if I'll put them on Superior Belly or not yet.
Okay.
I'll see. But yeah, beverlyfresh.com will be the main hub.
Fresh paragators up and down the slide. Chris in the field, cold get real. Shine over time, swapping tails on the trail. Outskirts, the place of birth. Smokestacks, dirt knacks, and property tax. Fill up the lungs, lay out the tongue. Cop the pint in a deuce, get down to get loose. Stay awake like an owl, motherfucker.
Something I established on Bed, but I think I refined with this album is like, I think a lot in visual terms. So like a trucking logo or something, like it's just like, you can't argue with it. It's like, it's not good design or bad design. It's just like super fucking solid. And like, it can get snow and dirt on it. And like, you can't fuck it up. It's always going to look good. Yeah. And I wanted to make my lyrics that way.
Right.
And like, I did, like, there's one line, fill up the lungs, lay out the tongue, Midwest on high, pulling down the sun. And I feel like that's like an example of a trucking logo through lyrics. Like, it's just like, it's simple, it's easy to understand, but it's poetic. It uses plain language. It's not doing anything fancy, but it's kind of timeless and rugged. And it has like the tone of some of my favorite authors, like Harry Crews or Scott McClanahan, like people that wrote with like their dialect or like everyday speech, and it makes it seem natural and profound at the same time. But you know, they worked really hard to hone that craft, to get it to feel effortless and of the everyday.
Yeah. It's rare to even hear like a 3-syllable word in your lyrics on this album. And I know you have a good vocabulary, but you're like really boiling the language down to its simplest parts, it seems like. And that does create like this simple but strong veneer.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like heady concepts and depth, I think, once you do a close read. But I didn't want it to be too like inaccessible or show offy or intellectual.
Baby gotta leave. Please, Derry, please. Big Keith gotta meet C. Scary with the two-tone. Chevin got a new phone. Pone hug the bone. Lil me leave the lights on. Gone blown up the butter pack up the flapjack. Heard him tell Terry that partied at the pack hard back.
There's another approach where I'm playing with narrative and having it be disjointed and more impressionistic. So like the song Kimmy, it's like kind of the portrait of people in a place, but in a really disjointed, deconstructed approach, like pared down everyday language, but used in an unusual way to kind of destabilize reality. So I guess like that tension of the agitation in the Outskirts series, like how can I do that within the world of a song?
Would you want to talk about the way the album ends, like the last song and then the last little kind of instrumental part?
Yeah.
It's a nice cap to the album, but I don't know what it means exactly.
Yeah.
You have something else to say about it?
Yeah, I mean that's actually a cover. That song is a Slim Willett song. He's kind of an obscure country musician. It was also, I think, an interesting guy, like a radio personality as well. And I don't know, I always liked that song, and he's got like this kind of nervous delivery on that one. It reminded me of kind of like a psychobilly, you know, like a little bit like Hassel Atkins, but more refined. And like, I don't know, like when the sun comes up, I'm going to change my ways. And like, it's about fitting in. It's about like, oh yeah, I'm going to stop drinking so much and doing these drugs. And tomorrow it's going to be different. And like, I'm going to, get suited up and fit in with the people at work. So like, I don't know, like a lot of the stuff he was talking about resonated with me. And then I started doing covers in my live sets like years ago, just for fun, to like do stuff that people know and the stuff that people didn't know, non-hip hop songs as hip hop songs. And then I decided, like, I tried out a few covers. There was going to be more covers, like 2 on this one. And we decided just to do one. And that was like a good ending.
Yeah, it's a nice ending song, I guess, because it's like saying this is the end, but it's not the end.
If I'm all worn and tired, I still look neat and sharp. To make the cash I need tonight, I've got to play the part. A boss will swear that I'm the man most likely to succeed. A slave is true from sun to sun to buy the things I need. Come sundown, I'm gonna change my ways. Do what I thought about all day. I drive like a demon on the open road. I show all the people that should be showed. I change my clothes to the
and he's got that duality. Is like, he's like, you imagine something's kind of reckless about him that he's got to change. And he's like, I'm going to have nothing but kittens on my mind. You know, he's like, I'm going to change my ways. And I feel like, you know, in some ways that's trying to pacify the beast and make those changes. But he's got this nervous delivery. And that's what I try to interpret that in my own way. Is like, you don't know if he's going to change or not. Like, is it, you know, it doesn't sound too convincing. And then it's, just like this nice little melodic. We decided to keep it we had some other stuff at the end, more complex. And we're just like, let's let it ride out, kind of mellow.
Yeah. It's a good ending. Good endings are important.
Yeah.
In the Patreon bonus, Beverly has been kind enough to share a couple of beautiful unreleased tracks with us, one solo and one from his group Pro Logo. And I'll also discuss some recent music releases. You can get that for $3, along with all the other bonus episodes, including exclusive talks with some of the greatest, weirdest rappers of our time at patreon.com/weirdrap. Stay tuned. Next episode, Beverly Fresh will return to interview Mrs. Paintbrush, aka Jackson of Grand Buffet. I've been your host, The Mole. I love you. Bye-bye.